On February 1st, Ukraine deployed sea drones to sink another Russian military ship in the Black Sea, the Tarantula-class missile corvette Ivanovets. An operator from a secret unit of Ukrainian military intelligence, known by the call sign 13, shared details of this operation with American journalists. According to him, 10 kamikaze boats of the Magura type were employed, with 6 directly hitting their target. Video footage from the attacking drones showed one drone boring a hole in the ship's hull, through which another drone entered and detonated the ship from the inside. The remaining drones targeted the capsized ship, resulting in its sinking. The operation's success was highlighted by the final scene where the bow of the Ivanovets was seen protruding from the water before disappearing beneath the sea forever. The powerful explosions left no chance for the ship's survival. Although a single hit, given each boat carried several hundred kilograms of explosives, could have been sufficient, Ukrainian forces deployed nearly a dozen boats. This strategy reflects Ukraine's anticipation of losing most sea drones in such operations aimed at Russian ships. The tactic of increasing the number of drones was designed to enhance the likelihood of at least one reaching and destroying the enemy vessel. Previously, Russian crews were able to destroy all or most of the Ukrainian sea drones. Thus, only a few drones managed to reach their targets. In such cases, Russian ships sustained serious damage but remained afloat with the possibility of being towed to a safe location. This time, by increasing the drone swarm size, Ukraine aimed to improve their chances of success and ensure a more powerful detonation. The new approach proved successful, allowing for the first time half a dozen drones to reach their target and effectively destroy it completely. The fate of the remaining 4 boats remains unclear. Video footage shows the Russian crew attempting to counter with automatic cannon fire, leaving traces on the water while the motorboats skillfully evaded enemy fire, heading towards the cumbersome Ivanovets with a length of 50 meters and a displacement of 500 tons. The maneuverability showcased by the Magura-type drones at the test range was impressive. The fate of the crew of the sunken ship remains unknown. The Russian Ministry of Defense and Vladimir Putin maintaining a notable silence on the incident, despite widespread footage. This reaction further highlights the shock and disarray among the Kremlin's military leaders. Russian military bloggers have partly compensated for the silence from Russia's general staff, claiming that 30 crew members were evacuated and 1 sailor went missing. However, this could be misinformation intended to mitigate the embarrassment of the naval failure. Given the devastating explosions on the destroyed and sunken Ivanovets, it is hard to believe anyone from the crew, which was supposed to number 40, could have survived. The operation to destroy the ship was executed swiftly, and rescue ships likely could only have arrived at the incident location after the attack was completed, that is, by the time the ship was expected to have gone underwater. The loss of Ivanovets is particularly painful for Russia, given that the ship was specifically designed for combat with other ships. After the sinking of Ivanovets, only 2 of the 3 Tarantula-class corvettes remain in the Black Sea fleet. The problem, like with other Russian ships, is that they are not designed to combat small motorboats, which is why the Ivanovets' main weapon, a Moskit missile system with a range of up to 130 kilometers, was never used to stop the attack of the fast, maneuverable small boats. Another challenge for Russia lies in the fact that none of their ships can match the maneuverability of Ukrainian sea drones. Another advantage for Ukraine is the size of these drones. Sea turbulence complicates remote control of drones, but this very turbulence makes it difficult for ship cannons to hit them. The kamikaze boats are hard to detect from a distance, especially at night and in the open sea. If the Russians can see these sea machines with the naked eye, it means their ship is already doomed. These mechanical piranhas, just a few meters in length, with a range of 800 kilometers and a payload of half a ton, would be envied by any shipborne torpedo. According to 13, controlling these drones is an art. In a conversation with CNN, he emphasized the importance of not overdoing it to maintain control over the boats. They operate on automatic mode en route to the target, but operators prefer to switch to manual control for the final phase. The recent naval battle against the Ivanovets took place off the western coasts of annexed Crimea near Donoslav Bay, where a Russian military base is located. Recently, Russian ships have been staying closer to the peninsula, fearing Ukrainian strikes, yet these attacks reached the Russians even in parts of the Black Sea where they recently felt safe. Ivanovets became the 13th ship the Russian Black Sea Fleet has lost in 2 years of full-scale invasion. Ukrainian authorities estimate the cost of the destroyed ship at $70 million, with the total cost of all ships lost by Russia around $1.5 billion, of which the cruiser Moskva alone accounts for $750 million. In contrast, the cost of one Ukrainian sea drone is $100,000, hundreds of times less than the ships they destroy. German-Ukraine expert Mattia Neles claims that Ukraine has already eliminated a fifth of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. Ukrainian analysts are more optimistic, estimating that the enemy fleet in the Black Sea has lost a third of its original number of vessels. Regardless of the percentage, it can be stated that this represents the most severe defeat of a naval fleet in history since World War II. It's even more remarkable that this defeat is suffered by a nation whose overall military power is ranked second in the world, and it's inflicted by a country that formally does not have a navy. Ukraine is aided not only by its domestically produced sea drones, but also by Western missiles, such as the British Storm Shadow and French Scalp. Last year, this weaponry was successfully used against 3 key targets of the Black Sea Fleet: the fleet's headquarters and 2 ships that were in the repair dock of occupied Sevastopol. As a result, Moscow lost 2 vessels, a submarine and a large landing ship. According to private sources, after sustaining damage, the submarine was decommissioned and the surface vessel was scrapped to free up dock space. The strategic outcomes of Ukraine's asymmetric naval attacks are as follows. Firstly, Russia has essentially ceased using its combat ships in the Black Sea to strike Ukraine. Secondly, an obstacle for NATO members has been removed. In September 2023, Russia conducted provocative naval exercises off the coast of Bulgaria, blocking part of Bulgaria's economic zone for shipping until the end of the month. Sofia then sought advice from its partners on how to respond to such bold actions by Moscow. As we can see, the direct solution came from Ukraine, although it's likely that NATO countries, whose reconnaissance planes and drones regularly patrol the Black Sea sky, have actively assisted Ukraine with intelligence and target identification. Thirdly, NATO gains unique and invaluable information directly from the battlefield about the weaknesses of Russian ships, which will be very useful in the event of a direct confrontation between the Western Alliance and Russia, not only in the Black Sea, but also in the Baltic, Arctic, Mediterranean, and other regions around the world. Fourthly, every Russian ship put out of action strikes a blow to the reputation of Russia's military machine and its defense exports. This increases doubts about Russia's capabilities among those who still trust it as a reliable military ally. It raises questions among those who still import Russian weapons. It causes bewilderment among those who consider Putin a strong leader. A strong leader, faced with the loss of another military ship, cannot simply pretend nothing has happened. But the Kremlin autocrat did just that, simply hid from the very unpleasant picture of his Ivanovets exploding and sinking. Given the obviousness of the event, such behavior is quite unusual, even for Putin, whose tendency to disappear from the information space during failures at the front is well known. Fifthly, for Russia, reducing the Black Sea Fleet represents a one-way path. As long as the war continues, Turkey will not open the Bosporus and Dardanelles Straits to Moscow or to any other country, preventing the Kremlin from replenishing its dwindling fleet with new ships. Lastly, the Black Sea Fleet can no longer threaten Ukrainian grain exports, which have recovered to pre-war levels and are breaking all records. When Vladimir Putin arrogantly withdrew from the grain deal with Ukraine in July of the previous year, a deal brokered by Turkey, it seemed that all the cards were in the Kremlin dictator's hands. He cynically struck at Ukraine's grain infrastructure in hopes of depriving the country of important foreign currency earnings. However, it quickly became clear that Putin had miscalculated. He thought he had freed his hands for attacks on Odessa's grain storages and grain-carrying ships. But within a few months, it became apparent that it was Ukraine that had its hands untied. Ukraine gained the ability to strike Russian ships without hindrance, something it could not afford, while the grain deal with Moscow was in effect. Thus, Russia wanted to turn the Black Sea into its own lake, but it turned out to be more like the River Styx for them, dragging one Russian ship after another into its depths.